Hello, true believers! Sadly, Stan Lee has passed away. I learned about it from my buddy V. He was talking about how reading comic books like Spider-Man and X-Men actually helped him to learn English. And that's beautiful. That's some beautiful stuff right there. Now, I can't really say Stan Lee and Marvel Comics had as much of a profound effect on my life. I mean, that's pretty major. But I would say that Stan Lee did have an effect, and Marvel in general had an effect on my childhood and my life in general. So I thought I would make a video, a humble little tribute video to Stan Lee. And we're also going to be looking at the SpiderMan Encyclopedia that I've had since I was a child. So, in recent years, we're going to, I guess, work backwards. In recent years, I've had this YouTube where I've been trying to introduce people to African culture and to a lesser extent other world cultures. And to do that, I've been leveraging popular culture such as video games and superheroes. And the superhero I use most often is Black Panther, a character created by Stan Lee. And why? Because, I mean, Black Panther, he's like, of all the characters that are in popular culture, I mean, like, he just fits right into my YouTube channel because, like, I mean, for obvious reasons. Sorry if I'm a bit rambly. I don't have a damn script here. But yeah, what I want to say is, but yeah, speaking of which, though, yeah, I think, Stan Lee was born in, the 1920s? And he made an African superhero. He made the X-Men, which was about, diversity and people accepting people of other races. Like, Stan Lee was a very progressive man of his time, if you really think about it. That's a very progressive person right there. So you gotta respect the man for that. When I was a kid, before we get to when I was a kid, there was a time, both when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, and even in college, because there was Halloween parties. Like, my number one, go-to Halloween costume, Spider-Man. That was my go-to Halloween costume, was Spider-Man. And there was one time when I was in college, wasn't even Halloween yet. I think it was like mid-October. I just went mid-October to college in a Spider-Man costume. Like, yeah, fuck it. Went all my classes just in a Spider-Man costume. Why the fuck not, right? I like to surprise people. But yeah, getting back to going back as I was a kid. As a 90s kid, and yeah, so in my opinion, there wasn't a lot of good American cartoons in the 90s, and I'm sure that's gonna piss off a lot of people, but that's my opinion. There wasn't a lot of good American cartoons in the 90s, which is why I gravitated to Japanese anime eventually when it came into being. But there was some good American cartoons, and some of the best American cartoons in the 90s was X-Men, Spider-Man, and also Batman, but obviously Batman is DC. But Spider-Man and X-Men, fucking love those shows, man. Fucking love those shows. And yeah, we wouldn't have had those shows if it wasn't for Stan Lee. Also, when I was a kid, there was Iron Man, but I'll be honest, Iron Man was not a good cartoon. But Spider-Man and X-Men were fucking awesome. Of course, part of why I love X-Men so much is because I too am a mutant. Like Jean Grey and Professor X,
I can read your mind. That's right. Some of you in the audience right now are thinking about the X-Men theme song, and I don't blame you because that's one of the best TV show theme songs out there. I know. Some of you are doubting my powers. Well, let me show you just how powerful I am. Damn it, Wolverine, stay on the damn tape.
Turns out, and I only learned about this last year, there was also a Silver Surfer cartoon. I shit you not, there was a Silver Surfer cartoon. And I learned about it last year. For a 90s cartoon, man, I think it was good shit. But yeah, while watching that, because I have heard that Stan Lee himself said that of all the characters he created, he liked Silver Surfer the most. And I was like, yeah, I can see why. And I bet, as I haven't read the Silver Surfer comic myself, but I can see the kind of psychedelicness kind of bleed through the cartoon. And I bet the comic was even more crazy and awesome than the cartoon was. You know what I mean? I bet that comic was really freaking cool. But yeah. I wasn't alive in the 60s when he was writing all of his great stuff. But, that encyclopedia actually does have a snippet of some of it has Spider-Man's origin story. So it does actually show some of Stan Lee's stuff. And that's what I'm going to show you. So I suppose we should get to that right now. Why not? Alrighty, so this is my SpiderMan Encyclopedia that I had since I was a kid. I don't even remember how I got this damn thing, but it's cool as shit. So let's take a look inside. Before we get into the Spider-Man origin story that's at the start of the book, let's look at all the other wonderful shit we can find in here. Now, after the origin story, that shows off some of Spider-Man's abilities and stuff. And in particular, right here, we see all the cool stuff that Spider-Man can do with his web abilities. His web slingers. Look at all this stuff. He's got web shield. He's got web parachute. He's got web skis, for fuck's sake. Look at that! Web skis! It doesn't even make sense. But it's awesome. Anyway. And you can see him over here fighting all sorts of other beloved Stan Lee characters. You got him fighting Silver Surfer, Mr. Fantastic. You even got him knocking out the Incredible Hulk. That's some crazy shit right there. And although Wolverine's not a Stan Lee character, just thought I'd point out that he's also beating up Wolverine over there. Another big part of the Spider-Man Unmasked book is the list of all the family and friends that Spider-Man has, like May Parker, Ben Parker, Mary Jane, and so on. But yeah, it's a pretty detailed list of all sorts of people that he knew. And of course, it's not just friends. Love this page, but we'll show that off more later. Of course, the villains, the Rogue Gallery, Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Venom, Carnage, Tombstone, the Kingpin, Rhino, the Shocker, Scorpion, Kraven the Hunter, Chameleon. I don't know why they had a... Actually, you know what? I kind of remember there being a second... Yeah, of course there's a Green Goblin too, yeah. I don't really... They never had a second Doc Ock in the cartoon, did they? No, they didn't. But anyway, I guess they did in the comics, though. Let's see, what else? The Vulture, who of course was in that newest film. But yeah, in the show, he was crazy old. He's not all that old in this one. In this image. Of course, Electro is in that other movie. The Lizard. The Hobgoblin. Mysterio. I don't know why they don't have the bald head. The bald head was funny. Spider-Man always made fun of the bald head. Let's see. What else we got in here? Gone. I don't remember that guy. Morbius. I remember that motherfucker. Yo, Morbius. Yo, they should do a film where, like, they bring in Morbius as the enemy, right? And then they have Spider-Man and Blade team up to fight Morbius, because Morbius is a vampire. That would be a cool team up right there. Just a random idea. Speaking of Spider-Man teaming up to fight the bad guys, here are some of his notable allies, such as Black Cat. She showed up pretty frequently in the cartoon to help Spider-Man, as far as I can recall anyway. And then we got Daredevil, good old Daredevil. He has a TV show now on Netflix. Pretty good. Check it out if you can. Who else we got in here? Human Torch from Fantastic Four. Molten Man. That's a fun name to say. The Prowler. The Punisher. Sandman. Say what you will about the Spider-Man 3 film, but Sandman put on a damn good performance. Honestly, I don't care if Spider-Man 3 was a cheesy film. I liked it. I liked all the Spider-Man films. Well, all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. All the Sam Raimi. Let me just clarify. I liked all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films and the new Marvel one. Anyway, alright. Just had to clarify that real quick. And of course I gotta show you this real quick. This is the Web of Life. I loved this page when I was a kid, or pages I suppose. This page spread. It really impressed me when I was a kid. I remember looking at this for a really long time. Just really cool seeing all the connections between each character and all that. Just really awesome. I love it. And of course this book shows Spider-Man's very first appearance in Amazing Fantasy number 15. Without further ado, let's look at the summary that is based on Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's original story. Stan Lee presents the origin of the Amazing Spider-Man. Sometimes the most extraordinary things have the most ordinary beginnings. For example, Peter Parker was a normal high school student, loved dearly by the uncle and aunt who raised him. But while he excelled at science, those accomplishments were often overshadowed by his innate shyness. Would anyone like to go to the new exhibit at the science hall with me? Get lost, bookworm! It was, however, that same devotion to science that was to bring about a monumental change, the boy's life. For one day, at an atomic energy demonstration, a tiny spider absorbed a fantastic amount of radiation, and in sudden shock bit the nearest living thing. Ow! What happened? What's happening? I feel strange. Beep! As if my entire body were charged with some sort of weird energy. Oh my gosh! I leaped halfway up this building, and I'm actually clinging to the wall just by touching it. Incredible! I wall crawled to the roof in seconds, and I'm crushing the steel pipe like it was paper. It's as if I've suddenly gained the abilities and proportional strength of a spider. Using his technical ingenuity, young Parker developed devices to spin his own sticky webbing. He set out to take show business by storm as the Spider-Man. But his ego swelled with his first taste of fame and success. He allowed a thief to escape when it would have been so easy to stop him, figuring it wasn't his problem. He discovered how wrong he was days later, when he returned home to find police there. His house had been burglarized, and his beloved Uncle Ben had been shot dead. With tears of rage and loss stinging his eyes, he swore he'd bring the murderer to justice. But when he caught the culprit, he was stunned to find it was the same thief he had let escape before. It was a bitter lesson, one that changed him even more deeply than the bite of the radioactive spider. For at last he grasped the basic truth that had shaped his life ever since. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. And it is this, above all else, that has given the world the one, the only, the amazing Spider-Man. Thanks for the memories, Stanley. One more story before we go, my friends. A few days after Stanley passed, I went to the urgent care. The doctor who treated me there was named Dr. Stan Lee. That's pretty amazing, my friends. Already at the end of this video, I will be linking another Stan Lee tribute video that I highly recommend. It is a 2-hour-long video done by Kevin Smith. Yes, that's right, 2 hours long, so you might want to get something to eat. You can listen to it while you eat. It's really good. And you should definitely check it out. Alright, my friends. Excelsior!